I want to share with you a simple and visual way to learn key signatures, not just the order of sharps and flats, but how to identify any key signature and its corresponding major key without having to memorize them. Okay, key signatures are a series of sharps or flats that are none at all that tell us what notes in a key are sharped or flatted. Now, they're found in traditional sheet music and lead sheets, so you need to be able to read them. And they're present without written music, so you need to be able to visualize them. They're very well organized and logical, which means that they're always in the same order. For example, if you have these four sharps, they're always going to be these four sharps in this order and not a combination of any other sharps. And sharps and flats are not mixed together. And they exist to aid you in learning keys of music. Now, here we have the treble clef, and we have these 5 lines. The treble clef is the upper stave in music, and is played in the right hand. And you'll find key signatures to the right of the treble clef. You'll also find them in the bass clef if you have traditional sheet music instead of a lead sheet. Notes on the staff reflect the specific sharps and flats that are in the key signature. So, each line here represents a note. E, G, B, D, F. And that's every good boy does fine if you don't know them. And you have these spaces here, D, F, A, C, E, G, 6 spaces. Each space represents a note. So, beyond that, here we have a key signature that has no sharps and no flats. And that just indicates that you're going to be playing all white keys. Now, we're not talking about keys of music just yet, but this is the key of C major, where you have no black keys, all white keys, no sharps or flats. And I use the key of C major as an example because it's a starting point in music. And you can see that clearly with the circle of fifths, because if you're not familiar, the circle of fifths is a geometrical representation of the core elements of music. And in respect to key signatures, if you move clockwise around the circle, you're moving in keys with sharps. If you're moving counterclockwise, you're moving through keys with flats. And you can see that they overlap down here at the bottom. So we're going to start off by moving through keys with sharps clockwise around the circle. Okay, so we'll start with the order of sharps. I'm going to go through these kind of quick so we can get to identifying the order of sharps and the key signatures. So we start off with F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and B sharp, those 7 sharps. So the order of sharps is F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Now you can remember those 7 letters, or you can remember an acronym. Fat cats go down alleys eating bread. Fat cats go down alleys eating bread. Okay, now the easiest way to find any major key with a sharp key signature is to find the very last sharp in the key signature. In this case, we only have 1 sharp, so it qualifies as the last sharp. And therefore, all we need to do is ask ourselves, what note is a half step up from this last sharp in the key signature? So here we have F sharp. What's the note that's a half step up? It's G. So G major corresponds with 1 sharp, which is F sharp. Beyond that, F sharp and C sharp. Well, C sharp is the latest sharp, and a half step up from C sharp is D. So D major corresponds with F and C sharp. F, C, G sharp. Well, G sharp is the latest sharp, so a half step up from G sharp is A, meaning A is the corresponding major key. Here we have F, C, G, D, F, C, G, D. I'm getting ahead of myself. D sharp. What's the note that's a half step up from D sharp? Well, it's E, so therefore the E major corresponds with those 4 sharps. Here we have F, C, G, D, A. So we have A sharp being the latest sharp. A half step up from A sharp is what? B. So B major corresponds with those 5 sharps. Here we have F, C, G, D, A, E sharp. Well, E sharp. A half step up is F sharp. So the key of F sharp major corresponds with those sharps. Last of all, we have F, C, G, D, A, E, B sharp. Well, B sharp being our last sharp. A half step up from B sharp is going to be C sharp. So C sharp major is the corresponding key. So to recap, there are 7 sharps. They're in the order F, C, G, D, A, E, B, and you can remember that with an acronym: fat cats go down alleys eating bread. You can find the major key with sharps just by finding the note that's a half step up from the last sharp. So here we are with the order of flats, and we're going to go through these kind of quick too so we can get to it. Here we have B flat. Now we have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, and F flat. So we have these 7 flats. So here we have B, E, A, D, G, C, F, and as you've probably already noticed, you can remember the order of flats by remembering this word, B-E-A-D, the word bead, and beyond that you can just use an acronym such as go catch fish, which is silly, but it works to memorize it. So bead, B-E-A-D, and go catch fish is how you memorize the order of flats. So how do you find a major key when there's flats in the key signature? It's a little different than finding it in the keys where we have sharps, because what we have to do is we have to go beyond the first flat. What we have to do is just memorize the fact that when you have one flat, which is B flat, all you have to do is memorize you're in the key of F. Beyond that, if you have 2 flats, all you have to do is look at the next to the last flat in the key signature. In this case, we have B flat being the next to the last flat in the key signature, and that tells us when we have 2 flats, we're in the key of B flat. So here we have B flat, E flat, and A flat. So the next to the last in the key signature is E flat, and therefore with 3 flats, we have the key of E flat. We have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat next. And the next to the last flat in the key signature is A flat, and therefore that's the major key. Moving on, we have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and therefore D flat is next to the last key, so therefore the key of D flat is the major key of these 5 flats. Here we have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, and the next to the last flat is what flat? Is G flat. So G flat is the corresponding major key. Here we have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, and F flat. What's the corresponding major key? Well, the next to the last flat is C flat. So that's the corresponding major key. So to recap, there are 7 flats. They're in the order of B, E, A, D, G, C, F. You can remember that by remembering the word bead and an acronym such as go catch fish to make it easier to remember those. And you find the major key of key signatures with flats in them, if there are 2 or more, by finding the flat that's next to the very last flat. And again, all you have to do is remember, if you only have 1 flat, that's the key of F major. Have you ever noticed that most instructional materials for piano use the same boring signs and symbols that are centuries old? It's uninspiring and it makes musical concepts more difficult to learn and retain. I want to send you this free instructional guide that has colorful tools and illustrations to make it easier and more fun for you to play music at your piano or keyboard. Just click the link in the description and I'll send it to you.